Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insanely Air 13, as we are about to get underway for the start of FEC's Summer Indycar series here. Real quickly, I'll try to give you a quick rundown through the field. Be aware this is going to be a relatively short series, not quite 10 races across the season, and they'll be running at about this time every week for the next several weeks throughout the majority of the summer. Also, just be aware, kind of a heads up, this is a fixed tune series, so everyone has to run the exact same setup throughout the entire schedule. Now, real quickly, looking at the standings for qualifying as they are, your pole sitter is this driver we're looking at right now, Maybe Racing. Second place is going to be Prius Killer 8110. Show me Prius Killer. There we are. There's Prius. Then followed by that is going to be Scored Buffalo. In a second. I do apologize for that. As you can actually see, they're actually going to manually set up the grid here. So you'll actually be able to manually see what everyone's proper lineup is going to be. Be aware throughout the event that the cars are going to be getting faster as their fuel load burns off. In this game, the tire, while it does have an impact on the Indy cars, it is not enough to outweigh the speed that you'll get as the fuel burns off until you get to about the 70% mark. So be aware that this is going to be a relatively shorter race on the schedule. This isn't going to be a very long event. We're looking at this race potentially being just a single stop affair. Tires, while you will be burning through about 2.5% of your tires per lap, that should get you about 20 to 22 laps on tires. Your fuel tank can go just about the same distance. This is anticipated to be a 33-lap race. So I would imagine you can anticipate this race to be a single stop affair. Sim damage is going to be turned on for this event though. So be aware of that. There will be a significant risk of incidents. Sunset Roval, which is the circuit we are on layout of, is honestly the closest thing handling-wise that we have to a street circuit. There are a lot of very tight, awkward angle corners. Not a lot of them are 90 degrees. A lot of them are at strange angles like 45 or 60 degrees, but we do have a lot of 90-degree corners, flat, very single lane throughout the majority of the infield, so do be aware of that. The field will roll out in single file at the start, but then once they're about 2/3 of the way down that back straightaway, that's when we'll start seeing them double up. So real quickly, using the rail camera, I'll just go ahead and give you a look at the field. Our pole sitter is Maybe Racing at number 3, followed by, oh god, I cannot do this. This gives me so much, that gives me so much dizziness. Prius Killer is going to start second, followed by Scored Buffalo. Then after Scored Buffalo, 4th place will be Jack Broseph. 5th place will be Claiming Racer. 6th will be Pindaz, who's the series host, followed by Dino Prime 77. Then Amish Gaming in the 51. GGA King will be starting 9th. Thomas 086R will be starting 10th. Q2 will be starting the 11th position. Neesmorph will be starting 12th. Packerman will be starting 13th. Fire Guy 14th. 15th will be Snarly Cougar. And 16th will be King Racing Leo. So real quickly before the field starts doubling up, I do want to go ahead and give you a quick idea as to what everyone's fuel load is. Maybe is actually running a heavy fuel load to start the event off, while Prius Killer is going to be running a little bit lighter of a fuel load. Scored Buffalo, who is going to be starting in the 3rd position, has got a fuel load that is on the lighter side as well. And Jack Broseph, who is starting on the outside in row 2, has one of the lightest fuel loads, but shockingly has already received a little bit of engine damage just in the pace lap alone. That is one other thing to be aware of. These cars have notoriously fragile gearboxes, so be prepared for that. So the entire field is doubled up across the entire order. 2 by 2 by 2, 8 rows of it down the entire field. It will be a long run here in this double file formation until they get to the start-finish line. speeds going into turn 1 are about 210 miles an hour, and speeds in turn 2 are pretty similar, but the rest of the circuit, you're not really going to be hitting anywhere close to those speeds. So being able to manage the extreme turbo lag in these cars is going to be incredibly important. They all gather up side by side, and we are underway. Green flag here, and immediately Maybe Racing shoots to the lead, and Prius Killer is already under threat from Scored Buffalo. And that is Jack Broseph, who goes really deep into turn 2, completely misses the ideal line, and is going to hemorrhage a huge chunk of positions in the process. So Maybe leads. Prius runs second, Scored Buffalo third. Fourth place is Jack Broseph. Fifth is Claiming Racer, and Dino has moved up to sixth early on. And way back there at the back of the grid is Fire Guy. I don't think he's taken much damage. No, that car is destroyed. He has taken a significant amount of damage by the looks of it. But we stay green at the head of the field for now. Very slow, difficult section, and with the way these gearboxes are set up, you're really going to have to be cautious with your throttle going through there because of the turbo lag. You get onto this nice little straightaway, lets you get down to the lower revs of 5th gear, 2nd gear for this corner right before you get onto the banking, and then all through this run, this is going to be full flat out. If you can catch your draft off of the car ahead, you could be looking at speeds up to 215 miles an hour. Scored Buffalo has a draft on Prius Killer. Prius outside, Scored to the inside. Are they going to try and go side by side into turn 1? It's not even a matter of try. They do, and Prius around the outside actually holds station over Scored Buffalo. Just for the moment, Jack Broseph has already received a bit of a time penalty at this stage of the event. Also, Team Racing Leo seems to have fallen backwards on the grid quite a bit as well. So we already are looking at 2 different drivers who are at risk of going a lap down in the event here. Maybe missed the corner just a bit, and now Prius is tucked up behind. Might be in a position to make a lunge. And again, most important thing is that these cars gain the majority of their speed as the stint goes on. They're only going to be getting faster and faster as we get deeper and deeper into the affair, because these cars are very sensitive to the weight of the fuel tank being fully loaded. Prius hops over that curb just a bit, and that leaves him vulnerable to Scored Buffalo. Buffalo is not going to try and make a big dive into this corner here. The top 4 have all kind of packed up on top of each other just for the moment. Oh my goodness, Prius goes for an incredibly wide line coming onto the oval section, and Prius has a bit of a draft off of Maybe Racing. Maybe goes to the inside, now goes high, trying to break the draft, trying to keep Prius from getting that maximum straight line speed. But Prius is there. Does Prius have what it takes to make the move in turn 1? Not quite. He'll have to stay in line, so our top 3 stay nose to tail. Still follows just a little bit behind Maybe Racing, gives maybe a small cap in that rear attenuator. And now through the slowest, tightest corner on the circuit, and we see already 3 drivers, Neesmore, Pindas, and Fire Guy, all have had to make pit stops on the first lap, or the first 2 laps of the race. Scored Buffalo tucked up right behind, so Maybe had a really good first half of a lap, but since he has been shown to be a very... And now we're seeing Scored Buffalo coming to make a move to the inside of Prius, backs out of it, instead he falls back in line behind. Neither of them have a great run coming onto the Speedway Oval this time. Oh, no, and Prius Killer has dropped out of 2nd position on the racetrack. And that massively opens up the gap in favor of Scored Buffalo and Jack Broseph, and it lets Maybe now stretch out to a lead that's over a second over the rest of the grid. Jack and Scored side by side as they go to the chicane. You need to be very careful there. You can really throw the car sideways. All right, coming in the broadcast booth right now is Prius Killer. Prius, go ahead, include your audio. A fantastic start, but all of a sudden you're gone. What took you out there?
It's called I was doing well, and my internet looked like you're doing well.
All right, well, I do have to ask, what's the strategy? It looks like it's going to be a single-stop race. When's the ideal time to make your 1 pit stop in the event today?
You want to avoid 50% tire wear, 13 to 20. If you want to drag out the fuel, you got 10 to 23 then.
All Alright, then we'll be keeping an eye on that. So I imagine pit stops around lap 16 or 17 would be the most ideal time to go ahead and pit in that case. Minimize tire issues. Saying to see you out this early, mate, but thanks for being willing to jump in and talk with us at least.
Yep.
Alright, so Maybe Racing has opened up a massive gap on the rest of the field now. Jack Broseph and Claiming Racer having a bit of a scuffle here for the third position, and for now it looks like Claiming has the position. I look real quickly at Maybe. Maybe is showing a little bit of engine damage and is actually tearing through their tires just a little bit faster than what we were expecting earlier. Scored Buffalo, though, no engine damage, but has put even more wear on his tires thus far in the event. And then Jack Broseph, who is running in the third position right now, has a little bit more engine damage, has a little bit better management of tires, and now Dino Prime in the fifth position is about to catch this train of cars. So while Maybe is off and away leading this event, we could be looking at a 4-car fight for the second position right now. Although, if Buffalo has a really good run coming onto the banked corners, he might be able to break away from this just a little bit here and open up a gap. Claiming goes really, really wide coming onto the speedway section. He's tucked up right behind Jack Broseph now. We'll have a fantastic draft going down the straight. Jack is not close enough to get a draft off of Buffalo. If Claiming wants to make a move, he needs to commit to it now. He's going to go around the long side, but couldn't get the car alongside far enough, soon enough. Has to just stick. Alright. So already 2 drivers have gone a lap down at this stage of the event. Fire Guy and King Racing Leo. But we stay green early on here. At the rate we are going, this event could be done with in about 45 minutes time, honestly. We are flying through this event. Scored Buffalo hasn't completely left Jack Broseph in the dust, at least not yet. And that is a lapped... No, we are under a caution. We are under the yellow flag for the first time today. And I have to wonder if this is the reason why Keen Racing Leo, the car is absolutely completely destroyed. And then just a little bit ahead, this is Fire Guy, who is 14th on track. No damage. He'll be very relieved at this. Pindas stays out. Neesmore stays out. It looks like it's just Keen Racing Leo who has had that terminal damage. But all that gap, all that track time that Maybe Racing opened up, it's gone now. We're going to take an ad break. We'll be back in about 90 seconds for the continuation of the event here. Oh! Oh my. Did that really just happen? Well, he didn't damage himself. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sunset Peninsula's Roval layout. Keen Racing Leo got out of pit lane in the middle of the field, but was waved through to go by, get a lap back. But just after he got by Maybe Racing, he spun out right in front of the field. Now, he didn't take any damage, and he is still going, but it looks like he is now going to be required to go to the back of the grid. Everyone else, I believe, is going to be stuck in single file, and it looks like the entire grid is going to be in running order. So this would put Keen Racing Leo at the back of the grid and Fire Guy just one lap down early on here. But at the front, Maybe Racing opened up a big gap early on, and the closest competition they had was Prius Killer, and Prius is already gone. 16% tire life for Baby Racing. For second place scored Buffalo. 16.8%, but Buffalo has a little bit less fuel in the tank, so in theory that should give them a bit of an advantage when it comes to the initial acceleration on the car, especially at the initial start and through the tighter infield sections. 13 of our 16 starters are still on the lead lap. We have 2 drivers a lap down, and Prius Killer disconnected, not even 6 laps through the event here. So now we wait to go back to green flag running. It looks like they're going to let Keen Racing Leo go ahead along with Fire Guy to try and get a lap back. And 2 drivers in the back of the grid, Pindaz and Neesmorphed, are going to go ahead and pit at this point of the event as well. Now, the fuel tank should only last you about 20 to 23 laps, and the soft tires aren't going to last quite that long. So those pit stops are not really going to give them a lot of positive benefit, but if they have any sort of engine damage, I'm sure it would have a lot more impact. And am I seeing this right? As Keen Racing Leo crashed, I think Keen Racing Leo has had a crash and is going to go out of the race due to that. We'll reach out to Keen Racing Leo, see if he has anything to say. Under this long yellow flag session that was caused by Racing Leo. Then he had a spin after repairing the car, and then seemed like he had an accident right afterwards, so might not have been quite ready, and that might not have had enough practice to really get familiar with how these vehicles handle. Right now, Fire Guy, who was waved around, he is rushing to try and catch the back of the grid right now. He's still about a minute behind. No, and now that's Jack Broseph, and now another driver lags out. And that was one of our top contenders. So top contenders, 2 of them, 2 of our top 5 contenders have suddenly dropped out of the event incredibly early. Fire Guy continues to try and rush to catch the back of the grid here. He's got about 20 seconds to run down. I think he'll catch them just as they get onto the start of the banked corner, the last 2 corners here at this circuit. Oh, he's going to catch him even before that, actually. All right, so our focus now goes back to the lead. It is Maybe Racing scored Buffalo, Claiming Racer, Dino Prime, and now Amish Gaming 23, who is lined up in the 5th position. And everyone is back on the lead lap now. Single file restart. Wind will maybe put the power down, and will still Buffalo be in a position to immediately capitalize and go through. We can see Scored pulls up right behind Maybe there. And we're off once again. It sounds to me like the top 4, top 5 maybe had a good run. It looks like the top 4 had the best, and already Maybe is pulling away from Scored. Claiming Racer gets alongside Scored Buffalo and muscles him out, and now Dino runs into the back of him, and Amish runs into the back of Dino. Is there damage on any of their cars after that? That was a big hit. No damage to Amish as far as I can tell. One up to Dino, because he hit from the front and behind. No damage, so he should also be able to continue. But already, Maybe Racing is scooting away with this. For those of you who follow this channel a little more, yesterday at the Indianapolis Oval in the PTG NASCAR Series, Maybe was on track for a top 4 finish, but had a controller disconnect and fell outside of the top half of the grid. We'll be looking to try and recover from that, but Sport Buffalo is not letting Maybe get away. He is staying within drafting range as they go down the back straightaway. This could be the closest we have had to a proper fight for the lead on track since the start of the race. Maybe's gonna hold a tighter line, and now Sport Buffalo coming around the outside. Maybe holds tight. Buffalo on the outside has a little bit more speed. They're gonna be neck and neck as they come across the line this time, but it looks like Scored has momentum. Scored puts his car up ahead. Maybe has a tighter inside line, can't go side by side through turn 1, and Buffalo has shot to the lead of the field. And then immediately goes wide in turn 2 and brings Maybe right back into the fray. Lake Racer is about a second and a half behind. Gambino is about 3 seconds behind. Snarly Cougar has had an accident and is going to have to pit, it would appear. Although for Snarly Cougar, that could be interesting. If there's a lap or 2 of yellow in the next few laps, they could actually end up being way ahead of the rest of the field on strategy. So keep that in mind. Oh, Buffalo runs 2 tires in the dirt, has a big twitch dealing with the turbo lag coming out of there, and now Maybe is tucked right up behind. Now it is Scored Buffalo who's going to be under pressure from Maybe. Okay, so we know that Maybe can lead, but Scored Buffalo has the ability to overtake. Now, can Maybe make the overtake, or is Scored Buffalo going to be better than him when it comes to defense? Scored Buffalo gets right against that outside wall there. The gap's a little bit bigger right now than what was prior, but Maybe does have the draft on the leader. Is Maybe going to be able to get alongside going into turn 1, or will he try to go have in turn 2? Not close enough, not this time. So Buffalo holds station over Maybe. And both drivers in this pair are pulling away from the rest of the field. Flaming Racer now 2 seconds out. Dino now 3 seconds out. Oh, and Buffalo wide, incredibly wide there. And that's Snarly Cougar who's wrecked just in front of them. Snarly Cougar has an accident right in front of the leaders, and Scored Buffalo jumped onto the brakes to avoid him, and in the process, it let Maybe get back by. So Snarly Cougar is back to being a lap down all over again. And now Maybe leads once more. We stay green for the moment. That also brought Flaming Racer just a little bit closer to this duo, but not close enough to have an impact. Maybe not going nearly as wide this time, and Scored Buffalo is more focused on just trying to get the draft off of Maybe. Alright, gap's a little closer than what it was last time. Scored should be able to pull up alongside Maybe going to turn 1, or at least into turn 2. Going to dive to the inside, but backs out of it, and for the moment they stay nose to tail, but this time it's Maybe who is wide going through turn 2. Flaming now back within a second and a half. Scored needs to be careful not to slap that outside wall. It can absolutely destroy your car if you hit that outside wall at a bad angle. Putting his rear wing right under his front wing right under Maybe's rear wing. And now they come onto the drag straight. Buffalo slides the car, licks the outside wall just a little bit. Flaming Racer is running the duo down though. Both these drivers have been making mistakes, and Flaming is starting to pull into this fight. Dino in fourth has completely lost the plot, so it's a 2-man fight that might become a menage a trois. Maybe is really sideways right before they get onto the oval section. Scored Buffalo has a big run early this time, going to the extreme outside line. Now comes back down, gets a big pull off of Maybe. Should be able to pull up alongside in the straightaway. Maybe defends the inside. Scored Buffalo says, fine, I'll take the outside. He's got the nose ahead at the start-finish line. Going through turn 1. They're still neck and neck. There's a little bit of contact. Scored Buffalo barely keeps the car under him, and he'll fall back in a second. He wants to try to do the crossover, but he can see the rear of the car sliding as he puts the power down. The turbo lag causes him to just struggle keeping the car straight. He's not able to get back alongside Maybe coming out of that hairpin turn 2. And now Flaming Racer is within a second of our leaders. not quite halfway through the event. And this is some of the most intense racing we have had thus far today. Maybe still holds station over Scored Buffalo. Maybe has led the majority of the laps today, but after the yellow flag for Key Racing Leo's accident, it has not been easy. Now Buffalo is tucked up right behind Maybe again. Do they go for another big set of moves in the Speedway banked corners? Do they wait until the straightaway? This time Buffalo's a little bit farther back from Maybe, coming onto the straight. He's going to use the draft, I imagine, to try and close the gap back down. This time Maybe defends inside, then goes back wide. Buffalo has a run. Not soon enough, though. He is going to try and cross Maybe over. Gets the rear wing, the front wing just alongside Maybe's rear tires, but can't put the power down soon enough to get alongside. So Maybe continues to hold station. And I have to wonder, has Scored damaged his engine? He seems a little slower in the straight than where he was earlier. No, he has not damaged the engine according to the game. Flaming Racer now within 8/10, but he is still not really cutting it up with these drivers. He's not actively fighting for this position right now. Okay, once again, onto the back straightaway. I have to wonder if you're a Scored Buffalo, he's just not been able to make moves happen going through turns 1 and 2. If you get a shot, do you try and make a move on this back straightaway? He's not going to do it this time. There's a bit of a twitch coming onto the backstretch, but still you have to wonder for Scored Buffalo, he may have to get his elbows out and try and make a lunge somewhere else on the circuit here. Maybe is really wide, Scored's a little tighter this time, but Maybe still has more speed. All right, Scored's got the draft. He starts closing the gap back down. He's not even close enough to try this time. Doesn't even try the crossover on exit. He's willing to just hang out right behind Maybe and just follow. Actually, that keeps him just a little closer to Maybe through this section of corners this time. Ooh, could he make a dive bomb here? It would be into the tightest corner of the track, but no. Maybe breaks early and covers him off, but Maybe threw away a decent amount of time trying to cover Scored off. And all the while, Claiming is running about a second behind. Big twitch by Scored Buffalo going over the curbs. Big slide. And now Claiming Racer is right on Scored Buffalo's rear wing. Onto the backstretch again, and Maybe drops tires into the dirt, and now here we go! Drag race down the straightaway, Scored on the inside, Maybe outside, Maybe goes deep into the corner, and will get back in front of Scored, just barely, but he does get back in front of Scored. Right on board, Claiming Racer. You can see the two leaders right ahead fighting, Claiming just hanging out in their shaft right now. Maybe defends inside, Buffalo goes to the outside, drag race once again, around the outside has been where the best moves have been made, but Buffalo goes really wide, has to back out a bit, no change in the top 3, although Buffalo did lead the line, Maybe's wide, here comes Buffalo, he finally gets the crossover done, has a big twist, puts the power down, and puts the car right in front of Maybe, and goes to the chicane, onto the one of the infield straightaways, Scored Buffalo is now your leader. It took about half of the race to do it, but Buffalo got to the lead, but now he's wide the tennis corner, Maybe pulls up alongside again. Now onto the drag section, and Buffalo absolutely hustling the car with both very losing control. Maybe goes to the inside. Does he go for a big lunge? There's a small amount of contact. Buffalo holds station for now, though. Now the infield back straightaway, and again, Maybe has a real big slide, and Buffalo starts opening the gap up once again. Maybe's got the draft off of Scored Buffalo. Halfway through the event. Maybe looks to the inside, going into turn 2. They have to be a Herculean drive. He gets the weight inside, and that is Snarly Cougars into the wall again there. Maybe's alongside, they go into the chicane, and somehow Maybe made it work. He was just more brave going into the chicane, and powers by Buffalo. Now Buffalo goes back to the inside, in the tightest corner of the track. High steers his car on the curb. Claiming is there again. Oh, maybe huge! Air over the curbs, and now Buffalo slaps the outside wall again! Flaming takes a really wide line this time. When do these drivers elect to pit? They've got fuel and tires for now, but I imagine you'd want to pit now, so that way you can have a nice light fuel load and not to worry about tires to the end of this event. Also, if there was a yellow flag, if you pitted now, you would inevitably cycle back to the head of the field. Alright, top two right on top of each other. Claiming seems to be falling off a bit. Might have received a little bit of engine damage. Buffalo to the outside. Maybe was the one who led the lap this time. Buffalo tries the crossover in turn one, but you're so flat out and fast with it, that's not really going to work. Both of our leaders are a little bit wide there. Going through the turn two hairpin. Buffalo is very confident in his car. He puts that thing right over the curbs every single time they come out of the hairpin. Honestly, Buffalo's probably been the most aggressive when it comes to curb usage and curb abuse in the event today. This has been a frantic fight at the head of the field, but we're still waiting to see when our leaders elect to start making stops. You only have to make one pit stop at around this time, and you should be good for the end of the race. Now Buffalo looks to the inside, but it was a fake out, trying to get maybe a run a bad line. There's a little bit of contact as they come back onto the speedway section. Maybe takes a really wide line. Buffalo immediately goes back in line. Flaming Racer is running their draft as well. All right, coming onto the straight once more. No Satelmore, top three. Buffalo easily clears maybe by the line around turn one. Buffalo has the car ahead. Maybe goes really deep into turn two. Buffalo's gonna do the crossover, and it makes it stick. Buffalo with the crossover in turn two makes it stick. All right, now through the chicane. You can see visibly how Maybe is just so much more confident with his car going through there. A really tight section once more. Claiming is fast enough to hold station with these drivers, but he does not seem to have, I don't know if it's the ability or the confidence, but he does not seem to have what it takes to directly make moves with the top two. He just kind of hangs out in their draft and lets them all fight. Buffalo dropped the tire into the dirt coming onto the infield back straight that time. So maybe he has a good chance to catch the draft and close in. Thomas made a pit stop that last lap, and Fire Guy is making a pit stop this time. I also put Fire Guy a lap down, but Thomas is actually now positive, and Dino is going to be taken out of the fourth position. And Maybe seems to have lost touch with the leaders. We're dealing with a slight technical issue here, folks. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Sunset Peninsula on the Roval circuit. The fight at the front has opened up just a little bit. Scored Buffalo has opened up almost a second lead over Maybe Racing, and third place Claiming Racer is saying, okay, well, if you aren't going to be fighting anymore, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pit. So this puts Scored Buffalo and Maybe Racing on alert, because now, if there's a yellow flag, Claiming Racing would actually get track position over this duo. Fourth place Dino Prime pitted a few laps ago as well. Also, Scored Buffalo has had to deal with a little bit of traffic here, but now it seems like the amount of aggression that Scored Buffalo is showing has gotten higher and higher. Now that he is leading, he is being very aggressive, throwing that car over the curb, trying to make things happen here. The other thing to consider, tire life. These drivers have been burning through their tires. They're going to be about 50% when it comes to the wear on that front left tire at this stage of the event. We're anticipating these two will be making their stop shortly. Where will they end up after making their pit stop? Another thing to consider is that after making the stop, Claiming Racer is about 2 seconds behind Choo Choo, and unless Choo Choo ends up getting right out of the way almost immediately, there's a possibility that Claiming will be held up. All right, it looks like Scored Buffalo will be coming in this time and will be joined by Maybe Racing. So this is going to be interesting. Remember, Scored Buffalo underfilled the car at the start of the race compared to what Maybe did, so Maybe should have a slightly shorter stop, but it shouldn't be enough to put Maybe ahead of Scored just off of that. And now we look at Claiming. Where is Claiming going to end up in relation to our two leaders? Choo not putting up too much of a fight against Claiming. We pitted about 2 laps earlier than what our leaders did. And already, Scored and Maybe are rolling down the straight. And if anything, I think our top two might have opened the gap on Claiming here. Claiming's gonna have a huge head of steam on them. And Snarly Cougar is right in the way of the leaders and is going to block Claiming from being able to do anything. So no change at the front. Scored Buffalo back to the head of this race. Maybe in second, Claiming in third. And now Claiming will have a tire disadvantage compared to these two ahead going to the end of the race. About 50% left in the tank for Buffalo. For Maybe, it's about 50 as well, so they're even on tires, even on fuel to the end here. It should be a long time until they start hitting traffic again. There have been other fights in the field that we've not really put a lot of focus on, just because this battle at the head of the pack has been so intense all day long. It has not calmed down pretty much since the restart, but now the gap is starting to open up in Scored Buffalo's favor. Claiming Racing really close enough to try and make a run on Maybe. We know these three drivers are fast enough to be our podium finishers. We just don't know what order they're going to finish in. But it's looking like it should be a Scored Buffalo win easily, unless he has a big mistake, a big sim twitch or something going over a curb. This is farther back for fifth. Dino Prime over Kneesmorphed, but I believe Kneesmorphed is a driver who has yet to make his final stop. If I remember correctly, Kneesmorphed actually pitted under the yellow flag. So he can go a lot farther, and when he makes a pit stop, it'll be a very short stop, but still, he is basically running a 2-stop strategy, and that's going to absolutely murder his ability here. Pindaz runs kind of all by himself here in the 4th spot, but he is another driver who still has to make another stop in the event. Fight for second might be on. Scored Buffalo has opened up 2 seconds on Maybe, and now I have to wonder, has Maybe damaged the engine? There's no sign that Maybe's damaged the engine, but Maybe has completely lost touch with Scored Buffalo. So the fight for the win is over, with the fight for second is on. What can Claiming Racer do to Maybe? Claiming comes to Maybe's inside. It's going to be a drag race as they come across the line. Claiming's got the car ahead. He'll complete the overtake by turn 1. Maybe, does he make the big dive into turn 2? Nope, he'll just hang out right behind Claiming. Hopes that Claiming runs wide enough that gives the door back to him, but that's not the case. So, we know that Claiming was fast enough to catch this duo when they were fighting earlier. Now he's actually made an overtake. Is he going to be fast enough to try and run down scored Buffalo? As maybe the driver who started on pole, has led the majority of the laps in the first half of the event, now fades to third position. Fourth place looks like it will very easily be Dino Prime, and fifth place will likely go to Amish. Every other position still a little bit hard to figure out because we have yet to see at least 2 drivers who are in our top 6 make. Oh, and maybe slaps the outside wall coming onto the speedway oval. I think maybe has completely lost the plot. Whatever has happened, something has gone wrong. Maybe seems to be losing the ability to manage that car as this goes on. Has now already fallen about 1.7 seconds behind Clayton, and Clayton is actually starting to run down the gap between himself and scored Buffalo. Again, I don't know how long that's going to be the case. I don't know how long that's going to happen. And Fire Guy has had another accident, it would appear. So multiple drivers near the back of the grid have been having a series of incidents. All right, Pindaz has finally made his stop. And by the looks of it, Pindaz should end up in around the 8th or 9th position on track. Scored Buffalo leads, but his gap is shrinking. It's down to just 1.5 seconds right now. With 7 laps left, claiming basically needs to be closing by about 1/3 of a second a lap, if not more, if he wants a shot at Buffalo. That would just give him there with Buffalo. That won't let him by. But considering that all of the passes our leaders have been making, I shouldn't say all of them, probably like 85% of the passes our leaders have been making have been getting made on the front straightaway. If Buffalo continues to bleed off time, we could see a side-by-side finish here. Into the tightest corner on the track once more. Tightest and slowest section. And this seems to be an area where Buffalo had been weak to maybe earlier, but now it seems like the gap is restabilizing. And just as I say that, Buffalo plows that outside wall. Still, it looks like he's managing the gap. It's hanging out in that range between about 1.5 seconds and 2 seconds. Claiming doesn't really seem to have what it takes to run Buffalo down, it seems. Look, Clayton started way back in 5th and has climbed up to the 2nd position. Then you have Neesmore who's been more overtakes over the race than anyone else. But again, we're still waiting to see if Neesmore has another pit stop to make. The gap the top 3 have pulled on 4th place Dino Prime is absolutely insane. 20 plus seconds. And Buffalo is only padding his lead now. There is traffic ahead that he's going to have to contend with. And I believe that might be Packerman. Yeah, that is Packerman who's just ahead. And Snarly Cougar seems to have come to a stop. His car very close to completely totaled. All right, it looks like he's going to start moving now, but still. So Buffalo going to have to deal with some traffic here. Yeah. And it looks like Packerman is not going to give Buffalo any real headache. And Snarly Cougar now pulls out of the event. Laps to go here at the Sunset Roval, and coming in the party right now is was Snarly Cougar. Don't quite know what happened there to cause that. Looks like it's just management for Buffalo, and he's just gonna walk off with this win. Maybe seems to have stopped the bleeding for the most part. maybe seems to have stopped the bleeding, has stabilized about 4 seconds back from scored Buffalo. Will hang out in the 3rd position. There's a bit of a fight here going on for 8th and 9th, or I mean 9th and 10th, between QQ and Thomas. We're definitely want to go ahead and try to put some eyes on that there. Thomas has the position. QQ wants it back, though. QQ has a draft going down the straight. Do you dare make a dive bomb in turn 1 and turn 2? Oh, QQ sure thought of it, but did not have the confidence in the car. So Thomas has a little bit more of a nice, even round line around turn 2. QQ kind of dimed it out a little bit more, and it looks like it's worked out in favor of Thomas. There is another fight. This is farther up the grid. This is for the 6th position. And honestly, 5th is not that far away. If GGA King catches the draft off of Neesmore, this could be a 3-way fight for 5th spot on the grid. And it looks like he's got the draft off of Neesmorph. Going to the inside. Pulls alongside. He's there. He's by. And Neesmorph falls to 7th. Has Neesmorph still not made a stop? Oh my gosh, Neesmorph is trying to go to the end on these cooked out tires. Well, he'll probably be able to do it, but he could fall to 8th, maybe even 9th position with the way this is going. So now, GGA Keen and Amish Gaming fight for 5th spot. Oh, and that's 10th place. And that's Thomas, who has had an accident in turn 1. And the rear of the car is destroyed. The engine is destroyed. He's not the only one. And looks like QQ has had an incident as well in the very next corner. And it's the same amount of damage, although it looks like QQ still has a functioning engine. But the drivers who were fighting for 9th and 10th position have had an accident between turns 1 and 2. And now QQ spins out of control, coming onto the drag strip section. And Packerman slips by, so this will move Packerman up into 9th. Thomas hasn't been able to get going since. This guy has not made any change in the fight for the lead, though. Buffalo's just maintaining a gap between 1.5 and 2 seconds over Claiming Racer. This is the fight for 5th as it continues. GGA Keen holds station over Amish Gaming. We're gonna have to deal with a little bit of traffic here coming up. Big slide in the dirt by Amish there. This game's so aggressive trying to run down GGA King. Claiming has now gone off! Just as I was about to say something about Claiming's day, he goes off. Now there's no damage to the car. He'll be able to continue, but in the process of going off, suddenly Maybe Racing cycles back into the 2nd position. This is a relatively short race, only about 45 minutes long, but drivers seem to be fatiguing out and getting tired as this goes on. And the drivers who are the most experienced in this game overall seem to be the ones who are filtering to the top. Mistakes being made all up and down the entire grid right now. And Thomas, who had that accident earlier, has only just now started moving the car. There is a very high likelihood we can see Fire Guy finish ahead of Thomas at the end of this. Real quick look at Claiming Racer. No damage to the car, although he does have a little bit of engine damage, likely just due to abuse of the gearbox. And he is so far ahead of Dino, I don't think he has to worry about being caught by him. The gap for the lead is now 4.5 seconds in Scored's favor. GGA Keen has opened up a gap of about 1.7 to 2 seconds over Amish for 5th. So it seems like just about every position on track has been settled now. Buffalo going to have the fuel to make it? Well, this is the last lap, so yes, it does look like he'll have the fuel to make it. So scored Buffalo. He didn't start on the front row, but he was immediately tenacious and got at it right from the word go. And after the only yellow flag, Buffalo took advantage of the draft and some good car positioning to take the lead early, and scored Buffalo wins the first race in FEC's IndyCar Series. Navy Racing comes home second. Claiming Racer comes home a distant third. And it will be Dino Prime who will come home fourth eventually. He is so far off. It's going to take so long for him to get to the line. There we are. Dino comes across the line now for the fourth position. Fifth place will go to ZGA King. Amish is close enough to maybe get a bit of a draft, but it looks like he's not close enough to make a move. No, he's not going to catch the draft. He's actually fallen out of the draft. So ZGA King will take home fifth. Amish will come home in sixth. Seventh will go to Knees Morphed on these really cooked out tires. And honestly, if Thomas and Cuckoo didn't have an accident, they likely would have caught him. I think he benefited a lot by those drivers in the back having their accident. So Kneesworth comes home seventh. Eighth will go to Pindaz. Pindaz did make that extra stop. And then ninth, last of our drivers on the lead lap, will be Packerman. And yes, in the end, Thomas was just completely unable to move after his accident, it seems. So that will end our event here. We're going to knock out an ad break. When we come back, we'll try to talk with some of our top finishers here at Sunset Peninsula for the IndyCar race. Don't go away. We'll be back shortly. All right, cool. We'll get at least one interview in. Amish, are you able to hear me? Let's see here. In the Xbox party, there should be a little box near the top that will
include my
say...
audio. I got it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Give us just a few seconds here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sunset Peninsula on the Roval layout. The race is done. A relatively short, sweet affair, and talking with us right now in the broadcast booth will be Amish Gaming. Amish, sixth place finish, but it looked like you had a lot more in you. It looked like maybe a fourth place early on, but it seems like y'all kind of fell apart. What happened throughout the race from your perspective?
I mean, I was happy to move up 2 positions from the start. I mean, one of the cars that qualified higher than me went back a bit, and I got a few DNFs, so helped me out a little bit, but unfortunately, I think the main thing that happened was in between the pit cycles, I got stuck behind a car that was off pace, so getting stuck behind the back marker, no fun, but still managed a P6, so I'm happy.
All right, strong run out there. One big question I do have to ask when it came to overall the way the car felt. This is the first, as far as I'm aware, this is only the first or second real big league race for these Indy cars in this game. So how do you feel the car handled, throughout the entire event as the tires fell off, as the fuel fell off? What is your general opinion about the handling of the car?
It drives the way that I like to drive it. I like my cars a bit more understeery, so the car likes to plow a bit, and I kind of like cars that do that because I find that I'm able to be more competitive with it, but I can understand why some people would not be the biggest fans of that.
It's funny that you say you feel like it's oversteery. I feel like it's understeery. I feel like it's way too oversteery. I wish I could dial more understeer into these cars, but fair enough. All right. Well, I do want to say thanks for jumping in and talking with us, Amish. It was a pretty solid run you had out there today. And now I want to go ahead and turn our focus to our second place finisher, Maybe Racing. Maybe go ahead, include your audio. Interesting race, to say the least. Started up front, finished in second position, but the racing have so much more going on than that. Walk us through that race from your perspective.
Ran about as clean as you could expect. Just didn't have the pace at the end, but was about able to keep with them for the most part. When I got to that second stint, I just, for some reason, kind of lost handling in the car a little bit, so it fell off at that point, but from there, otherwise it was a good race. Scored and I had a good battle, claiming it, catching me too. Unfortunately, at the end, something happened. We still got third, so we're okay. Yeah, just a solid, clean, fast race. Led a few laps, got a few things done. Couldn't ask for more, really.
All right. Well, you heard that here. Any other things you want to say looking forward? A second place finish is a good start to a championship run. Do you think you have a shot at the championship in this series going forward?
I would like to say yes. At the same time, it's so early. Who knows what happens? There's ovals, there's road courses coming up. But who knows what can happen? No one knows what's going to happen at the ovals next. We're going into this completely blind, pretty much. Who knows?
All right. Well, either way, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. And with that in mind, that'll pretty much wrap up our broadcast here from Sunset Peninsula Raceway. A real nice, simple race, all done in a little bit less than an hour here. But in a week's time, assuming everything works out, we should be back for another IndyCar race for FEC Summer IndyCar Series. Until next time, though, I've been your host, Insane Lear 13. Thank you very much for joining us today. Farewell and goodbye, everyone.